I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Not because he was angry, but because he sounded hurt. Genuinely hurt. Because I was scared, I admitted. I was terrified that everything would change, that you'd look at me differently, that we wouldn't be us anymore. So instead, you just shut me out. His voice rose slightly. Not quite anger, but definitely frustration. For months, Alex, months, I've been watching you pull away, watching you become this stranger, and you couldn't just tell me the truth. You don't understand what it's like. The words burst out of me before I could stop them. You don't know what it's like to wake up every day and know that who you are is something people hate, something that makes you different, makes you a target. You don't know what it's like to sit there while people make jokes about people like you, and you have to laugh along or risk being exposed. Jake flinched. I would never, ... I know. I cut him off. I know you wouldn't. But Jake, you live in a different world than I do. You're everything that's considered normal. You fit in perfectly. You don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to be afraid of losing everyone you love just because of who you're attracted to. He was quiet for a long moment, processing. I could see him working through it, trying to understand. Did you really think I'd stop loving you? He finally asked, his voice soft. Did you really think finding out you're gay would change how I feel about you? The question broke something inside me. Tears I'd been holding back for years suddenly spilled over. I didn't know, I choked out. I couldn't risk it. You're the most important person in my life, Jake. You always have been. The thought of losing you was worse than living with the secret. Jake left my room without another word. Just turned around and walked out. Closing the door quietly behind him, I collapsed on my bed, my phone still displaying that stupid dating app, and cried harder than I had in years. This was it. This was what I'd been afraid of. I'd lost him. The next few days were torture. Jake didn't text, didn't call. Our moms noticed something was off, asked if we'd had a fight, but we both just said we were busy with school. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think about anything except the look on Jake's face when he'd walked out. I'd replayed the conversation 1,000 times, trying to figure out what I should have said differently. Should I have explained better? Been less defensive? Not said anything at all? For days after the incident, Jake showed up at my house unannounced. He walked into my room without knocking, and I braced myself for whatever was coming. I've been thinking, he said, not sitting down, just standing there with his hands in his pockets. About what you said? About living in different worlds. I'd not trusting my voice. You're right. I don't understand what it's like. I can't understand what it's like. But Alex, that doesn't mean I don't care. That doesn't mean I don't want to understand. If the best thing that ever happened to you, you gonna miss out on that because you're scared? He had a point. He usually did. Something shifted in Jake after that conversation. He became ... protective. Not in an overbearing way, but in a way that showed he was paying attention. When one of his teammates made a homophobic joke in the locker room, Jake shut it down immediately. I wasn't even there, but I heard about it later. Not cool, man, Jake had said, his voice cold. That's not funny. Dude, chill. It's just a joke. No, it's not. It's disrespectful and ignorant. Find better material. The guys were shocked. Jake was usually laid back, the kind of guy who laughed at everything. But apparently, this was his line in the sand. Word got around. Jake Matthews, soccer star and Mr. Popular, didn't tolerate homophobic comments. It didn't make him less cool. If anything, it made people respect him more. He started doing other things too. Small things that probably didn't seem significant to him, but meant the world to me. He started using gender-neutral language when talking about relationships around me. Instead of asking if I liked any girls, he'd ask if I liked anyone. Instead of assuming my future partner would be a woman, he'd say whoever you end up with. Invited me to hang out with his friends more, making sure I felt included. When one of his friends started giving me weird looks, Jake noticed and pulled him aside. I don't know what was said, but the look stopped. He even watched movies with LGBTQ characters, asking me afterward what I thought, if the representation felt accurate. You don't have to do all this, I told him one night. You don't have to become some kind of advocate just because I'm gay. Jake shrugged. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because it matters. You matter. And if I can make the world even a tiny bit less terrible for you, why wouldn't I? The first real test came at Tyler Rodriguez's Halloween party. Tyler was on the soccer team with Jake, and his parties were legendary. Everyone who was anyone at our school would be there. Jake insisted I come with him. He'd never go to parties, he pointed out. Come on, it'll be fun. I was hesitant. Parties meant crap. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. You're my person, remember? So on a quiet Sunday afternoon, with Jake sitting next to me on the couch, I told my parents I was gay. My mom cried. Not because she was upset, but because she realized I'd been carrying this secret for so long. She pulled me into her arms and told me she loved me, that nothing could change that. My dad was quieter. He asked questions, some awkward, some sweet. He wanted to know if I was happy, if I was safe, if there was anything he could do to support me. I just want you to be yourself, he said finally, whatever that looks like. Jake's mom, my aunt, had apparently already known. Jake had told her weeks ago, wanting to make sure his family would be supportive before I came out to mine. She'd been preparing my mom, making sure she'd react with love. That was Jake. Always thinking 3 steps ahead. Always protecting the people he cared about. Something interesting happened after I came out. I expected things to get harder, but in many ways, they got easier. I stopped spending energy on hiding. Stopped monitoring every word, every gesture, every interaction. I could just ... be. Some people at school had opinions. There were whispers, stares, a few unkind comments. But Jake and my growing group of supportive friends formed a buffer. They shut down gossip, challenged prejudice, made it clear that I was under their protection. Jake's status as a popular athlete helped. People respected him, and by extension, they had to respect me. But the most surprising change was in Jake himself. He started questioning things he'd always taken for granted. He noticed inequalities he'd never seen before. He became aware of how differently LGBTQ+ people were treated. How many assumptions society made about relationships and identity. I never realized how many times people just assume everyone is straight, he said one day. It's like ... everywhere. In movies, in conversations, in the balance his time better. So he tried. He started dividing his attention more carefully, making sure Brittany felt prioritized. But it wasn't enough. Because the real issue wasn't about time. It was about me being gay. I don't understand why you need to be so involved in his life. I overheard her saying to Jake one day when I arrived at his house, "It's not normal, Jake. The way you defend him, the way you talk about him constantly. People are starting to talk. Let them talk," Jake replied, his voice tight. "Alex is my cousin. He's family. What people think doesn't matter. It matters to me," Brittany said. "It's embarrassing. My friends keep asking why my boyfriend is so obsessed with his gay cousin. It makes you look, I don't know, questionable." The silence that followed was heavy. "Questionable," Jake repeated slowly. "As in, people might think I'm gay? I mean, can you blame them? You're constantly together. You get all defensive when anyone says anything even slightly negative about LGBTQ+ people. It's weird, Jake. Get out." "What?" I said, "Get out. We're done." I backed away from the door, not wanting them to know I'd heard. But I heard Brittany's shocked protests, heard Jake's firm final words. "I'm not going to be with someone who has a problem with my family. Who thinks being supportive makes me questionable? Alex is one of the most important people in my life. And if you can't respect that, then we have nothing to talk about." 5 minutes later, Brittany stormed past me without a word. Jake emerged, looking tired but resolved. "You heard?" he asked. I nodded. Double quotes, "Good. Then you know exactly why I ended it." "Jake, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did," he interrupted. She was asking me to choose between her and you. That's not a choice. That's never going to be a choice. You win every time. I didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone who sacrifices a relationship to stand by you? Thank you, I managed finally. Don't thank me for doing the bare minimum. It highlighted how strong it had always been. Something beautiful happened to Jake at college. He joined the campus LGBTQ+ alliance as a straight ally. He told me about it during one of our calls, sounding almost embarrassed. I wanted to understand more, he explained. Wanted to learn how to be a better ally, not just to you, but to everyone. And I figured, why not actually do something productive with that interest? Through the alliance, Jake became an advocate. He attended rallies, participated in awareness campaigns, educated other straight students about why allyship mattered. He started calling out homophobia more actively, even when I wasn't around. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about doing what was right. I never realized how much casual prejudice exists until I started paying attention, he told me. It's everywhere, Alex. The jokes people make, the assumptions they have, the way they talk about LGBTQ+ people like they're some monolithic other. It's exhausting just witnessing it. I can't imagine living it. Oh, come to my world, I said with a small smile. Yeah, well, your world needs to change, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help change it. Not everyone in our extended family had been accepting when I came out. But over time, even the resistant ones started to soften. Jake's influence helped. At family gatherings, he'd steer conversations away from uncomfortable topics, redirect invasive questions, make it clear that I wasn't up for debate.